We're talking today a little bit about famous pets and TVs and your favorite TV show pets, favorite TV show or movies, depending on what you're at. So let's just chit chat here.
About
According to this stuff, the number one animal that people remember is Lassie.
Yeah.
I always thought Lassie was the one they took out in the back shed and shot.
What?
What was the dog that took out in the back of them? Old Yeller.
Old Yeller, yeah. Well, Lassie still, I think, if you polled most people, especially maybe not the newest generation, but certainly, anybody born before 1980, I think, is going to remember.
But when
Lassie.
I watched Lassie, it doesn't seem like very realistic. The dog comes. What's wrong, Lassie? There's a boy in the well. The boy's name is John.
Well, it's just to me, it was a much more professional version of the Littlest Hobo. I think it was the first animal show where the animal was the main host. I mean, there were shows before that, like the next one that you have listed there, which is Rin Tin Tin. I mean, that was also a pretty famous show. That's before our time, but
what about the one with the dolphin?
Flipper?
Yes, Flipper.
Okay.
That was like a kind of
a famous animal. Yeah, sure.
That's kind of like Lassie, but in water.
In water.
In theory, it was. Flipper out of nowhere. You'd be in like a restaurant downtown Toronto. Flipper would just jump out of the water all the way in the restaurant in Toronto and be like, and go right back in. You'd be like, oh no, something happened in Montana. And you'd run. But no, Lassie is one of those. I'd love to see if they can do a new version. Call it like Jassy or Massey or something like that. Like a new age version of Lassie.
Okay.
Because it's kind of a cool show.
Yeah.
Got to give that. I mean, it was very popular in Saskatchewan, where Janelle is from.
So let's talk about some other famous TV show. We talked about London, the dog from the Littlest Hobo.
What is Rin Tin Tin?
Rin Tin Tin.
Let me tell you.
It's a German Shepherd. That's all I remember.
But it's a World War I?
It was a show in the 50s. Or was it in the 50s? Yeah,
well,
50s.
Yeah, well,
there it is.
It's
so it's long before our day, but I remember talking to my dad one time about Lassie, and he said, well, Lassie wasn't nearly as famous as Rin Tin Tin. I went, oh, who's that? So, yeah, he's a pretty famous dog. I mean, when we think about today's dogs, I think the dog Moose and his son Enzo, which they both played Eddie on Frasier. That's a pretty famous dog.
How about you talking about Frasier?
Do you know what Eddie was?
Dog.
Yeah, what kind of
Jack
dog?
Russell?
Yeah, there you go. Very good. A long-haired Jack Russell Terrier. In fact, I think Eddie made the long-haired Jack Russell Terrier popular because the smooth coat is definitely the number one sort of breed of Jack Russell. But, there you go. You see, you've got Eddie right there. There's Eddie from Frasier. Yeah, he's a beautiful dog.
I always like that type of dog, but the thing is that I always hear Jack Russells are a real pain because of their barking. And
you know what?
Any dog could be like that.
Yeah, they can all be that. But I'm going to tell you, Jack Russells, in my experience, the long-haired ones tend to be better behaved than the short-haired ones. I don't know.
Really?
I apologize for those listening who have short-haired Jack Russells. I've met some wonderful, sweet short-haired Jack Russells as well. But I find the long-haired ones are calmer. It's no different than we talk about Labrador Retrievers. I tend to find yellow labs a lot calmer than black labs, which I find in turn calmer than chocolate labs. That doesn't mean good or bad.
Black labs are pretty calm.
They are.
Actually, I know a black lab. He's crazy.
I know a lot more calm yellow labs than I do any other retrievers in general. Now, that doesn't mean I don't know a couple of crazy yellow labs.
You haven't met Romeo.
Yeah, Romeo's one of those crazy yellow labs. Now, here's an interesting one. Buck. Do you know what type Buck from Married with Children? Do you know, most people have no idea what kind of dog that is. Everybody thinks it's a mixed breed dog.
Was it
it's
bulldog?
Called a Briard. A Briard, B-R-I-A-R-D. It's a purebred dog. So that was Buck from the television show Married with Children.
Now, one of them that I remember that I always watched, I never knew this right now, but Murray from the show Mad About You that starred, what was the name of the people that were in that show? Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
And what's that other guy's
his name?
Yeah, he's a loser. But anyways,
I didn't know that was the name of the dog, Murray.
Yeah, Murray. And it was a cross of a Border Collie mix. And, Border Collie.
Interesting.
It was a good dog.
Yeah.
Murray was a great dog. Mad About You. Janelle was just a little kid. She was, how old were you when that happened? This was in the 90s, 94, 93, 94, 95.
There you go.
The
dog's name actually,
8 years old.
The dog's name on the show is Murray, but the dog's actual name is Maui. M-A-U-I. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Poor guy. Probably passed on now, but, he lives on in reruns forever. What about Mr. Ed?
Mr. Ed. Well, that's a horse, but yeah, he was the first famous talking horse. Yeah, that was long
He was
ago.
the first famous talking horse.
Well,
I know 7 of them in the stable.
No, but
they talk to me all the time
on TV. You know, it's another one that a lot of people don't remember is that gorgeous bloodhound from Hee Haw, and his name was Beauregard. He was kind of a cool, and I see you've got Petey up there.
Yep.
Petey from the Little Rascals. He was a really neat dog. That was an American Bulldog from
probably one of the most.
Little Rascals.
I'll tell you one thing. One of the most famous dogs ever, and Janelle and Joe will both admit to this, is Dino.
Yes,
from
the dinosaur, but he was portrayed as a dog. Yeah,
he was the dinosaur dog.
Yeah.
Do you remember Dino?
Yep. And what about Astro from the show
Jetsons.
The Jetsons? That's right.
Astro,
though. So that's an animated dog from the Jetsons. He was pretty famous.
Was that Janelle had one? What?
Scooby-Doo. There you go. Yeah, that's a pretty famous. Okay. Yeah.
Scooby-Doo is probably the coolest dog I know.
Yeah, it's true.
Like if there was ever someone that I just wanted to be friends with.
Yeah.
You see, Scooby-Doo I wouldn't want him to be my dog.
Right.
I would just want to hang out with Scooby-Doo. It'd be like, what's going on? It's Friday night, not much to do, Scooby. Want to hang out? He'd be like, ooh, let's get high. That's what Scooby was. He was a drug addict.
Okay.
Have you not watched any of the movies Scooby-Doo?
No.
It's like Alice in
What am I
Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland was always portrayed as a movie where, you know, the person who wrote it as a drug paraphernalia movie, right?
Okay, yeah.
Same thing with Scooby-Doo and the characters was because Scooby-Doo was always eating and he was always hanging out with Shaggy in the van. It was because Scooby-Doo was getting secondhand smoke.
Oh, okay.
And was always hungry. I can't believe you didn't know this.
Well, I mean, I remember it's sort of Scooby-Doo. The whole van was very hippie-ish, right?
But why do you think none of the other people could really understand what Scooby was saying except for a couple of people? Because they were all, and they're all talking.
Okay.
Why Scooby saw Ghost. What do you think?
All right.
They were doing something crazy in that van. And even when they released the movies,
Interesting.
I mean, it was still pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
But I think Scooby-Doo is one of those dogs I'd love to hang out with and just chill.
So that's dogs that are pets that are famous on TV shows.
Well, what about,
of course, there's Sylvester, right? Tweety and Sylvester. Yeah, you're going to the animated side now.
And can't forget from the Family Guy, Brian Griffin.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most sophisticated alcoholic dogs that talks. Peter, Stewie.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we can also look at The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Santa's Little Helper.
Yes, Santa's Little Helper.
You know,
yeah.
I think every show has a real good pet or a real good dog.
If you notice, all the new shows are including all pets because that's the, that's how it started off with Eddie from Frasier.
But I told you it's all about product placement. So you have a pet, you can show a brand of pet food. You can show a brand of, like the pet wearing a coat. You can make an episode around these things.
Right.
That's why companies build this stuff in.
That's cool.
So a lot of people don't think about that.